Thank you for coming out on short notice to a short town hall on a very important topic. We are honored to have my chairman, Chairman Mike Rogers from Alabama, who is the chairman of the Homeland Committee Transportation Subcommittee. And Chairman Rogers and I just spent a very interesting 2 to 3 hours over at O'Hare talking to various officials with the TSA, security, the Chicago Police Department, getting sort of a feel for what they're doing at O'Hare when it comes to security. I thought what we do is I'm going to take a couple minutes and just give a real brief overview. Then I'm going to turn it over to the chairman. He can take a few minutes and talk about any particulars he wants to talk about. And then, like all of my town halls, we're just going to open it up to questions. We went to O'Hare to listen to experts talk to us about this very important subject. Chairman Rogers has graciously agreed to give us some time today to hear from you all, the real experts, all of us. This is an important issue for an important time. I want to begin, if you'll indulge me, as we begin all of our town halls. If you can stand, please stand and join me. Let's say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then, as we always begin our town halls, big and small, after the pledge, we acknowledge heroes in our midst. There's a lot going on in Washington these days. There's going to be a lot going on in Washington for the next year or 2 or 10. A lot of fights, a lot of important stuff going on. We are all Americans. It's the greatest country in the history of the planet. And it's primarily that way because men and women have served. Men and women have died and been hurt to serve this country. So, if you have worn the uniform and served your great country, either stand or raise your hand and be recognized. Thank you. All right, here's my 2 cents. Oh, final thing. You know, we've only got one rule at our town halls. One rule: respect. Respect everybody. Respect every opinion. Respect the chairman. I'm just a freshman in Congress. Try to respect me. Most important, respect each other and respect every single opinion in this room. If we do that, we'll enjoy it and we might learn something. Here's my 20 cents. And I'll let the chairman get more specific because he knows a heck of a lot more than I do. I believe in freedom. I consider myself a civil libertarian. I have been blessed to have been put on the Homeland Security Committee as one of my committees in Washington. And as many of you have heard me say before, I'm going to say it again, we live in a very dangerous world. There are evil people all around the world, in probably every town in my congressional district, who are trying to get their hands on weapons to kill Americans. It's not more complicated than that. You've heard me say this before, there's not a lot I want my government doing. I believe in a good, small, limited government. I want my government protecting us against that. Protecting her against that. And so we live in this post-9/11 world we live in. It's awkward. It's tough. You know, we want to go visit our parents down in Naples, and so we got to get on an airplane at O'Hare to do it, and we want that to be as hassle-free as it can be. Right. Well, it's not hassle-free. And so what we're trying to figure out now is this: how do we protect everybody in this room, and how do we do that in as efficient a manner, and most importantly, how do we do that and still protect and respect your basic freedoms? It's not easy. And boy, I've learned so much in this year and a half in Congress, sitting on this committee, seeing what I see, and I don't see what he sees. We don't see what the president sees. It's a scary world out here. I think it's important to drill down on TSA and what's going on in the airport security. Get your thoughts, your issues, your concerns, because we got to figure out the best way to do this. You should be able to go to O'Hare Airport and get from point A to point B in a pretty easy fashion. But it's not that easy. So I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you for coming. I'd like Chairman Rogers to take some time and talk about whatever he'd like to talk about. And then most importantly, any specific thoughts or questions you all have or comments you've got that can help us in Washington. We've got a committee head here. Tell them what you think. Chairman Rogers.
Thank you. Joe, and I really appreciate y'all taking the time to come out and talk with us. It's very helpful to all of us to hear from folks like you, and I know there's a lot of things you could be doing. It says a lot about your character that you take the time to come out and be involved like this, and I appreciate y'all sending Joe up there. We need sharp young people who aren't shy in that town. And
I'm not young.
he's not shy either. But we're proud to have him.
That's why we love him.
I don't want to get too much in the weeds unless you want to go down a particular pig trail on some issue, and I'll be happy to do that. But I do want to remind you that the Department of Homeland Security didn't exist 10 years ago. And immediately after 9/11, when the president decided to form this new department, which is going to be the biggest reorganization of government since the Pentagon, it was a big undertaking. And I try to tell people to think of it this way. It's like this young lady right here. As she grows into her adolescence, there's going to become a point, and all of you who've raised kids know this, there'll come a point in which her limbs are going to be a little bit more gangly than her coordination. Especially boys like this that get real tall. The department's the same way. It's gone through a period of transition where we expected it to grow real fast in a lot of different ways. And you've seen some growing pains as a result of that. You saw after Katrina, FEMA did some real learning by making some serious mistakes. But since then, we've had a number of natural disasters around the country, and FEMA's performed splendidly because they learned from that. One of the great things, and since we're talking about translation, I want to talk about TSA. One of the great things about TSA is we haven't had an unsuccessful attempt. But now, that doesn't mean there's not a lot of room for improvement. Anybody that's been to an airport knows that. You can see this become bloated, inefficient, sometimes too intrusive. It is not using the right approach, and that we think that it should be more risk-based rather than treating everybody as a potential terrorist. But what I will tell you is there's some maturing that's going on. There's some programs that are developing right now. One of the things we talked about at O'Hare a little while ago is we have some new programs in place that are taking very frequent flyers. And trust me, the airlines that you fly know more about you than you ever want to think they know about you if you're a regular flyer. What we want to do is if we've got a business flyer, for example, that every week flies 2 to 4 times. And almost invariably, they're flying to the same place. So why do we want to take that business traveler, let's say it's this gentleman, and treat him like he's a potential terrorist when for the last 15 years, he shows up at the airport on Monday morning at 8:30, gets on the same plane, and flies to Idaho? We don't. So what we have is a new pre-check program, which is kind of a known traveler program that's being piloted in 4 major metropolitan areas right now, that soon is going to be across the country, where these very frequent known travelers will be put into a different lane. And they don't have to take their coat off, they don't have to take their laptop out, they don't have to do anything except take their keys and their phone out. And they go through a magnetometer, that's all they do. And you think, well, that's not fair, how come I don't get to do that? Because you don't fly all the time. But the good news for you is, they're not standing in front of you anymore. So now it's going to be faster for you to go through. So it's a win-win for everybody. But that's one of the ways that we're maturing to a more threat or risk-based approach. So now instead of dealing with the common, frequent travelers that we know a lot about, we're only dealing with people either we don't know anything about or fit some other profile. So we're getting a little smarter. Technology, we spent a lot of stupid money on gadgets that didn't work. That's been a learning process. The only thing that's redeeming about that I can say is at least we haven't had another successful attack. But we're also learning to get more mature about the way we take these technologies and consider them. So I think you're seeing the department become wiser about its approach. Initially after 9/11 and the subsequent attempts and then the successful efforts in London and Spain made us think we had to throw a lot of stuff out there right away to protect us. And we spent some stupid money. The only good thing is we hadn't been hit successfully again. But you're going to see, because